I couldn't. I was working at the same time, watching a more thrilling Toronto game, and I missed the moon balls. Unfortunately, Cecil was serving up.
Yeah, he didn't look good. Neither did Aaron Loop. I've often said the best play when the bases are loaded and you got none out isn't to hit the batter, but that's just me. How you doing?
I'm doing well. How are you guys doing?
We're good. Got a little clarity last night in the Western Conference, and congratulations. How exciting was that game in Calgary? Calgary won. Winnipeg got a point in a shootout loss. Neither way got a point. They both booked their trip.
Yeah, it was really something to watch. The Kings, they had a few minutes in the third period where they really turned on the screws. The thing that really surprised me was that they just didn't, a team that has proven in the last 3 years that went down, they have this extra gear. They just didn't get to that level. They put pressure on the Flames and the Oilers on Tuesday, but they didn't, skate rings around them like they did other teams over the past few years. So, count me as somebody who subscribes to the theory that was a group that just played so much hockey. I think in the last 3 years they played 70 more games than Calgary did, that they finally just ran out of gas for the most part. And it was great to watch. The Ottawa thing too in the East, watching Ottawa come back now and win again yesterday, and the Bruins losing to Florida in the third period. That to me is just as incredible as seeing Vancouver, Calgary head to head now in the playoffs.
Elliot, if the Bruins lose and miss the playoffs, could that be good news for Maple Leaf fans in that maybe Claude Julien and Pete Chiarelli get the axe in Boston?
Yeah, I would think that would happen, George. I would be surprised if that did not happen should Boston miss the playoffs. I think there's a lot on the line there, and jobs are certainly one of them.
Yeah, and what are the chances, though?
But should they be, though?
No, not at all.
It makes no sense.
But of course they shouldn't. To me, it's unreal. Like, people forget how hard it is to win. It's funny, George. Like, last couple days, some surprise teams have been, making the playoffs. I've been just sending texts of congratulations to people I know on those organizations or on those teams. And the number one thing they say back is, thanks very much. You don't realize how hard it is to even make it in this part. And then take that even a step deeper. You've got the Boston Bruins, who won a Stanley Cup and came within 2 games of winning another one. And all we're talking about here is how these guys are going to get fired. Of course, it's not fair, but there are people who have ridiculous expectations. They forget how competitive it is and how difficult it is, and they can only remember what happened to them 3 minutes ago. People have the memory of a cat. That's what social media does.
Also makes people instant experts. But let's not forget this team is owned by Jeremy Jacobs, who is a gunslinger and about as competitive as they come, to say the least.
Yeah, and he confirmed a story to. I remember this year when George did the sit down with him and Larry Tannenbaum and Murray Edwards at the Board of Governors meeting earlier this year in December. He confirmed a story that we've kind of wondered about if it was true, that in Game 7 against Toronto a couple of years ago, he and his son left the game when it looked like it was over, and they weren't there to see the victory. And that just tells you, when you work for the Boston Bruins, that is who you're working for. And he's competitive, and he wants to win all the time. And I think the thing that really is amazing about Boston in particular is, you look at the team where the football team didn't win anything for 40 years. The hockey team has had droughts of 30 and 40 years. The basketball team has obviously been very good, and the baseball team went 86 years without it. And now that they've won, it's not that they're satisfied. They demand to win more, and it's an environment that forces you to be great, but it's also an environment that forces you to be unrealistic.
So do you think Boston gets in, or do you think they've done themselves no favors, and Ottawa's just been outstanding of late, especially last night? They won again 3-0 against New York.
I think right now you have to look at Ottawa and say they're going to get in. The one thing...
How many times have you changed your mind, though?
Oh, like, I've changed my mind as much as I've changed, my socks, which is about every 6 weeks.
Yeah.
No, I change it almost every day.
But that's what they make you do, right? Like I sit and watch these guys like that do your job, and it's a difficult job. And you go, I got to give the edge to this team. Now the week later, everything changes so much. You go, I got to give the edge to Ottawa.
Yeah, you absolutely have to. Although the one thing about Ottawa is they play Philly, Saturday afternoon, and the thing about Philly that's weird is they lose. Like last night, they lost to Carolina. Their record lately is horrendous against the bad teams, but I think they've won 9 out of 15. I think they're 9-3-3 against playoff teams in their last 15 games. So, I'm really curious to see what Flyers team is going to show up on Saturday. The worst thing for Boston is they're playing a Tampa team that's got something to play for. So, Florida could have rolled over yesterday. They didn't, obviously. And now Tampa, they'll be looking to see at the same time what Montreal's doing again here against Toronto, because there's home ice advantage on the line. So, it's not like Boston's going in there against somebody who's not going to care. They are going to have to play a team that has something to go for.
Talk about the testicular fortitude of Pavlich in Winnipeg and how terrific he's been. This is his 3rd straight shutout, which they had to have.
I don't know if there was a guy this year, Dean, who was going to be more run out of town by his own fans than this guy was. He's one of the things I liked about the Masterton Award this year is that the current award was going only to the guy who missed the most time, and I think there was, I'm one of the voters. I know one of the things that we talked about as a group was, do we have to refocus how this award is done? Should it just be about injury, or can we look at some different people for criteria to win? And to me, there's a lot to be said for a guy who's under the heat that guy was in his own market, basically lost his job, and then got it back and has played the way he has.
Otherworldly. You're talking 3 straight shutouts on the road against a couple of playoff teams.
And at a time where one of their best players was suspended. To me, that's pretty amazing. I'm really happy for him, and of course it's all because he put Springsteen on his mask. His record has been incredible. Once again, it all comes down to Bruce.
The boss.
Yeah, Ellie, just one word answer. Better job, Hartley or Paul Maurice?
Why do you make me do this?
Hartley.
George.
Hartley.
Say tie. You can say tie.
What's Charlie's Angel feel like? The only reason I'm going to say Maurice, is he didn't have the defense for a while. And also, this week with Bufflin getting suspended, they could have fallen apart and they won all those games. Calgary's record since Giordano got hurt is ridiculous. You're going to make me pick one. I'll pick Maurice, but it's not the most solid pick I've ever come up with.
Let's bet a beer on it. I say Hartley, and then we'll settle up later.
I think Hartley will win it because less was expected of Calgary, and the Jack Adams always seems to go to the guy who isn't supposed to make the playoffs and gets there, and Hartley deserves it. I'm not going to complain if Paul Hartley wins the Adams, that's for sure.
Listen, appreciate your time. Thanks, brother. You have a great day.
Guys, have a great weekend.
You too. That's Elliot Friedman, NHL Insider on Sportsnet. Sicily Honda.
Quick stat, Paul
Great
Maurice
place to buy a Honda.
Paul Maurice